Hey, friend, welcome back to the Summit Up podcast. The Summit podcast. Wait, sorry, I got to start over. Hi, friend, welcome back to the Summit Up podcast. I'm your host, Blake Reed Evans. This is a podcast that is focused on bringing happiness to the beauty industry, and it is powered by Summit Salon Business Center. And if you're taking a moment to listen to this podcast, we want you to know like how much we really appreciate it, because without you, we wouldn't have a show. And we understand that podcasts, out of all forms of media, you have to like seek us out. And that just, it really does mean a lot to us. So thank you so much for tuning in. And today's episode, we are going to be jumping in and talking about all things front desk and guest or client experience. And an amazing person, and person I've known for a really long time, is Rose Coitrone. Now, Rose is in the front desk division as well as consulting with Summit Salon Business Center, and is also a manager at Highlights Salon in New Jersey, where they have two locations. And Rose has been someone that I've turned to for advice in this industry for a really long time, not only for myself, but also our salon has hired her for coaching. And Rose, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Blake. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation, because I think that, the more studies I read, the more I realize how important than ever the guest experience is. And the first impression is the front desk. So,
Yes.
it's something that we definitely need to have top of mind, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Christy Valenzuela always said that's the first, the last, and the lasting experience, which I think is something that everyone is aware of, and we've all kind of in the industry tried to find other ways to maybe get past that. I think, with COVID happening, people try to get rid of the front desk and tried this whole like deskless experience.
Yeah.
And I think that people are realizing and coming back to the idea that they're missing a lot of opportunities by not having a physical live human there rather
Yeah.
than like basically robots when we talk about iPad, self check-ins and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's like, the way that I view it as like an owner is that, yes, technology is going to take some pressure off of the front desk. Like we used to just physically call people, every single
Oh
client,
yeah.
and now like we don't
Mhm.
do that anymore. To me, that just opens up the hours for them to focus on the guest experience, and then also also the employees, and making sure that they're also having, a really good experience within the salon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's like a big point that a lot of people are realizing that it's like, yeah, technology is going to be helpful, not by replacing them, but maybe replacing some of the, I don't know, kind of mindless tasks like doing confirmations, where
Hmm.
it's like now if we have that off their plate, what else can they do to support our companies and support our team with growing the company? And I think that they're going to be so much more useful in that sense. And also, I think that most of the people that we hire that are really great at the front desk, they love helping people, and it just opens up more space for them to do that.
Yeah, I love that, because it really is a people job. And like, we always let our front desk know, like, you're here to make sure that the guest has a really amazing experience, and that the employees are also having a really amazing experience. And like, that's what
Hmm.
your focus is. Your job is not like to be a secretary,
Yeah, the
like,
transactional, like I think of not to like date myself, but Office Space, the woman with the stapler and all of that stuff.
yeah.
It's like she's just like, "Thank you for calling, thank you for calling." It's like that's not what we want that person to be doing. It's just kind of having this repeated script over and over and not really making connections. And that's something that I think is really important, is that we need to be bonding more. If we're working the front desk, we have to be bonding not only with our team, but also with the guests, because that's how we're going to make a better experience going forward. And bonding, like we talk about it so much with our associates. So when we talk about the associate program, and talk about it with our stylist, like when we have this whole idea about what does that guest journey look like within a salon. So like salon emotions, if any of you have experienced that from Salon Centric or Redken or any of the other brands, that's really about bonding. And we don't really put so much emphasis on the bonding with the front desk. So, something that I've changed when I go in and coach is I actually have part of that four-step check in that we do. At the end, I have them introduce themselves to every guest. And
Mm.
that I think is the biggest missing spot because it's like our guests are giving us the money at the front. I think that they should at least know our names.
Yeah. I totally, that's such a good point because it's like, but you know what I think about our like long time guests at the salon, and like that relationship is totally
Oh
there.
my
And
gosh,
like
so
they're
good.
the first ones to tell us actually like if the front desk, you know, a new front desk team member, if they're not going to work out, like they almost
Hmm.
know before, because but that totally makes sense. It's like, you know, it really is that connection. It's just like knowing the name. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's major.
Yeah. Well, and two, and then I always say it's like if we start saying the names, then guess what? Then we get more feedback when it comes to reviews,
Hmm.
whether it's positive or negative. At least there's a name connected to it instead of us having to play detectives as
Or
managers
the
and
front
owners of
desk
the
girl.
salon.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
nothing makes my skin crawl more.
That girl at the front desk, I mean,
Yeah.
it's so dehumanizing. And I think like that's a big piece. It's like, and I think that's where sometimes we end up failing our front desk too, is that we don't give them this opportunity to be a human within our company. And we treat it like that transactional piece. So it's kind of, in some ways, it's like when we get upset about it, I'm like, do we need to hold that mirror up and see, like, are we treating them like they're
Yeah.
transactional? And then is that now getting, feedback from that person that they feel transactional? They don't feel like they have value within the company. Nobody even knows their name. They refer to them as the front desk girl or the front
Yeah.
desk guy. And then we're confused on why it's not working out. And it's like, I think there's a big piece where it's like we have to start humanizing that position and also treating it like it's not transactional. Because I think as soon as we set up that idea and mindset, that's what we're going to attract. It's like if you believe in law of attraction or not, what you put out into the universe is what you will receive. So if you say, "Oh, front desk is always transactional," guess what you're going to start collecting? Transactional people.
Yeah. Well, and that makes so much sense because, like, I even think from my perspective as someone who works with associates, it's like, you know, I always say we are a team. We do everything together. It's not my
Mhm.
clients; it's our clients. And when it comes to, and my in turn, my guests respect
Yes.
my associates, and the ones who
Mhm.
don't, I end up having a problem with. And we work that out later. But that makes sense with the front desk. Is like, you know,
Mhm.
if you're as an owner or a manager treating the front desk as if they are just whatever, you know, this person that's there to just swipe a credit card and answer the
Yeah,
phone.
the warm
um
body.
yeah, and they're going to be, you know, they're going to be treated like that. And in reality, what I've learned from Summit is that the front desk could be a money making machine in itself. Like, I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, if it's done right, like in our peak in our salon, like we, for sure, it has generated as much as a service provider at times. Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's all about them really learning and being coached to seeing opportunities.
mm,
One of my highlights of my career, as in um, basically coaching and inspiring and growing front desk team members was at my salon company. I had a woman that I had trained, and I always am trying new things with verbiage and like trying to see where we can plug in certain things that we're trying to do to generate more income for the company. So I just happened to, with her training, say to her, we don't sell a lot of packages. And she's like, tell me more. And I was like, yeah, so we offer all these series packages because we have a spa as well as a hair salon. And I was like, we just don't sell a lot of them. And then I usually reflect when there's a question on that. And my old business partner and I had this, epiphany always where it's like, okay, let's just take the emotions out of it and look at the reality. Like, is this our idea of what's going on with our guests, or is it something that we're kind of roadblocking because we believe that they're not going to buy a package?
mm,
So I said to her, I was like, if we're catching them on the rebook for a service that has a package and they just experience that, in their mind, they're going to think that they have two already of that package, that series package. So let's
mm,
say it's a blowout package. So I was like, so why don't we do how was your experience in the checkout? Then we're going to roll into the next piece, which is, setting up the rebook. And then right after that, we're going to ask them, has anyone ever told you about our series packages? So we plug that in there and then we, see if they want it or not, because we inform them that, hey, if you were interested, you could actually use that towards today's service as well.
Mhm.
And then we went into our retail and then, cashing out, gift card, whatever. It was wild. She listened to me to the T. I love when that happens, right? And she listened to me so well, I even forgot that I had said it. And she actually sold $25,000 worth of packages in 6 months. In
That's
six
amazing.
months.
Yeah.
And it was all just, by trying to place it into a different spot within the conversation.
Yeah.
And she did that with every single service that we offered series to. And she sold so much. And it was wild because it literally was within 6 months. So it's like, that's more than most of our service providers were doing in 6 months,
Yeah.
because we
And then
had a
she's
lot
making
of
the
lower
service
levels.
providers busier too. Like, it's like such
Exactly.
a, wow,
Yeah.
it's amazing too. And because we also like, obviously the psychology of packages and gift cards is if
Hmm.
the money's there, you're going to spend. Like, I just got
Yeah.
IVs yesterday and I didn't even think twice about spending double the amount because I had gift cards that I pre-purchased during the holiday season.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
didn't
Because
even
it's
like, they're
free.
like, oh, it's only an additional $80. I was like, whatever. I don't care. I have gift
And you're
cards.
like, oh,
Um,
$80? Sure.
yeah.
That's nothing.
Uh, and it's so true because it's that psychology of that. So
Yeah,
that's
well,
really
and people
impressive.
come more often. They end up, they feel weird not spending money when they come, so they're more likely to take upgrades. So, as
Yeah.
much as like people think of packages and series and gift cards, all of those things as like a negative, I know with gift cards, there was a statistic that I loved, and it was that people who purchase a gift card or have a gift card, they'll spend 20% more than what the gift card was valued. And it's all because we feel weird not spending money, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's like if it feels free, then we're like, oh, well, maybe we should get that upgrade of a Fusio dose, or maybe we should get that upgrade of a glaze, or maybe I should buy some product today because it's basically free.
Yeah.
So
Girl math.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think too, it's like, and not to like throw shade into anybody, but there's a lot of people that are also hiding what they spend from their significant others. So it's a
Yeah.
great way to hide your money
Funnel the money.
too.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, oh, well, I'll buy this package. So then that's just a one charge. And then now I'll get all my upgrades that I want or all my products that I want. And it doesn't look like I'm spending as much money as I really am. It's like
Yeah.
money laundering, I guess.
But like in the cleanest way possible.
Exactly.
And then you
Yeah.
have
We're
beautiful
just
hair or skin at the end of it, so it's even better.
exactly. Exactly.
Well, I love that because so when it comes to I want to circle back to because I think that it's also good customer service to make sure that people get packages and stuff. Like, I'll keep using an example because it just happened yesterday, and I was thinking about
Hmm.
our conversation for today. But it's like I
Hmm.
went to the IV place and I had just ran out of my one of my packages, and then she goes, "Well, did you know that we have a new package now where you can buy?" Ingredient upgrades and you'll save more money if you buy the package. And I was like, what? I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And she goes, yeah, well, just so you know. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm really glad to know it. And I said, no, thank you for now because I have a gift card to use. I still have a
Hmm.
pretty big one to use. But I know for sure once I'm done with that gift card, the first thing that I'm going to buy is that ingredient package. And it's because she already planted the seed. So like sometimes it's the long-term game. Like, yeah, people say no thank
Yes.
you, but it's
Hmm.
like now I know for sure. In that moment I decided, okay, well, when this gift card's out, I need to buy that ingredients package because
Hmm.
it's going to save me money.
Yeah, well, and I think with that being said, it's going to be important that you are told about this package again
Hmm.
when you come in,
Oh,
whether
so
you need it or
consistency.
not.
Yeah.
So then there's that consistency because it's like we're all busy people. If they don't tell you, and let's say it's like you have two more visits before you need to, purchase that package, you might forget about it by then. So I think it's really important that we have that consistency as well. And again, Christy Valenzuela would always say, it's like, no doesn't mean never. It means not today or next opportunity. And the
Hmm.
more that we offer it, the more opportunities we have for them to say yes. Because they start believing that maybe I do need that.
Mm.
And I think that that's a key that we forget too. It's like we get scared when someone says no to us. But at the end of the day, it's like it just means not today. And
I love that.
if we say like, hey, you really could use this treatment or something, and then we never say it again, that person's going to feel like, oh, they just wanted to sell me something.
Yep.
But if we're consistent, they're like, okay, you keep talking about this treatment and I keep saying no. Can you just tell me more about it now? Because now it's like you're telling me again and again that I need it. So what is it?
So how do you get like a front desk team member to not sound so scripted? Because that's one thing that I've struggled with in my own team, but
Mhm.
also just even just a person who receives services out in the world. Like I can tell when I'm being sold to, and then I
Yeah.
can be tell like the person yesterday, she was like, "Oh, Blake, like you always do, this ingredient upgrades. By the way, here's this package you can get." That was like an authentic offering. Like,
Hmm.
and I could tell the difference because this place is big on packages, and I can tell when they have goals to hit
Yes.
sometimes. But yeah. So how do you get someone to authentically offer?
I think part of it is teaching our team how to understand the value of it. So it's like understanding how to speak to it as a valued item. So not just like as a package, like, oh, it's a package, this is what it is. It's like, why do we have the package?
Hmm.
Understanding a little bit of that background, who would be a great person for the package also, or an upgrade, because it's like you can offer something that's kind of like not really particularly like for a person.
Hmm.
But I think that there's like a piece where it's like, okay, so let's think about it as like, how does that fit best in that person's world?
Yeah.
And I think
I.
that that's the key. It's like knowing, like, hey, you always get these upgrades. Like, have you ever considered this package? Like, that's going to be a big piece. I think it's
Mm,
also verbiage with, we always called it sales softeners.
mm,
So sales softeners are ways that you make it more about knowledge and not so much about the sale. Like if you just jump in and say, hey, we have a new package, it just sounds like you're just selling a package. But if you go in and say something as simple as, hey, just so you know, we do have a package for this service, that's
mm.
going to feel more authentic than if you just jump into your packages. Um,
I love that.
and that's like one of my favorite ones. There's actually a cool one that hit the market for like verbiage that's working really well. And it's, have you ever considered?
Mm,
And I think that's a great one because it makes them really think about it like, geez, have I ever considered? And that verbiage I had, one of my stylists use it for keratins. And I was like, hey, why don't just give this a shot? There's this new verbiage that we're kind of like seeing how it works out in the world. It seems like
hmm.
it's doing really well. So I had her try it with keratins, and she got 3 keratin upgrades that week
Wow.
just by saying, have you ever considered a keratin before?
Yeah.
And it opened up this whole like conversation instead of it being so like, you need this or too pushy and salesy. It really just jumped into like, have you ever considered it before?
That's so, I like that soft entry too. And it's still an authentic offering when you do it. And like, that's so good because it's like, yeah. And it's so funny because I do that a lot with extension. Excuse me. I do that a lot with
Mhm.
extensions because I
Yeah.
never want to offend somebody because I don't do
Yeah.
like big head transformations. Usually I'm
Mhm.
like filling in gaps.
Yeah.
And,
More
but
volume.
I've like, have you ever thought about like extensions before? Have you ever considered it? I love that.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's so really soft. It's non-judgmental too, that it doesn't
mhm.
sound like if you say no to me, I'm going to go cry in the back room. It
Yeah.
just, it's like, it's just a conversation starter. And I think that's key with any offerings. If you open it up as a conversation, I think it makes a bigger space for us to like have them ask questions. It doesn't feel so like abrupt. It doesn't feel pushy. It just really is a soft way to enter those conversations. And I think that that's the key. It's like you have to go in authentically. And when you go in authentically and open up to just softened words and not so like sales hitty, I think space is important as well. It's like there's power in the pause, there's profit in the pause, as we always say. So if
Hmm.
they seem like they're not interested, just tell them, think about it. And if you ever have any questions on it, I'm so happy to help you. It's like make it a space where they feel like they can come back into that conversation too.
That's amazing. And well, what was coming up for me when you were talking too is that it does go back to the relationship that the front desk builds with the guests, like,
Yes.
and really truly knowing them. It's like, I've noticed you've come in for blow dries, every other week for, the past couple months. Like, have you ever considered a blow dry package that we have to offer here? Like, that
Yeah.
shows ultimate client care, like,
Yeah.
and that to me is like just top notch service. And when we're in an era of automation,
Yes.
AI, I guess, could see the repetition and visits, but they
Right.
don't have the humanity behind the offer,
No.
and I think that is really, really amazing. So I love that. Thank you.
And, they don't have the smile behind it. They don't have the body language that can show,
Because even if it was
the
when a robot
calmness.
smiles, it still scares me, you know.
It's
So
kind of more scary. It's like,
yeah, so I think that's incredible. So, I want us to pivot into like the role of a modern front desk, because we've obviously talked about like the client care, and
mhm.
then also making sure that they're paying attention to that, making offerings, of course. I really want to debunk old school front desk mentality,
Yes.
if we can
Yes.
take some time on that, because
Well,
there's a caricature of like it's just a person at the front desk, all
mhm.
they do is answer the phones and
Yeah.
book appointments, and they don't know anything. What does a modern front desk person look like, or what should they look like?
Yeah, so a modern front desk person, I always say, should be able to play a stylist. And I say that I can play a stylist. I've never been a stylist. I've never been to beauty school, any of that. But I've had enough
But I feel like you
time.
could do a balayage at this point.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're always asking me about formulations and stuff, and
Yeah.
I came up with a really good one the other day.
You're
So
like
I
a
was
splash
pretty
of
proud of
9P.
myself.
Yeah.
I was like, well, actually, I got into Pulp Riot with that one
Oh,
because
good.
the person wanted like a really like blue, black,
Yeah.
and they did one B. It just wasn't enough,
It
and
wasn't
I was
blue
like,
enough.
what?
Yeah.
I was like, what if you put like what is it, Nightfall and a
Yeah.
little bit of Noir in hot water and just do a quick rinse of that? I
By
don't
the way,
know.
Rose, that's exactly how I do it. That's like almost my formula to a T when I do blue black. That's hilarious. But yeah, so
But
yeah,
again,
you're see
never been a stylist.
exactly. This is yeah. So you've been around us enough to know
I've
exactly what's going on.
invested enough time to find out more. And it's like, and it's not that I'm out there formulating or telling stylists what to do, but I'm there as a support. And I think that that's the key behind it is I'm invested in the beauty industry.
Mm.
And investing in the beauty industry is still going to the classes. And that's something that like I've always believed in my whole career. It's like, even if like I wasn't getting paid to go to like a class that you would do, I would still
Hmm.
show up. And it
Oh,
was
that's so
just so
true. Because
then,
you were at that like whenever you were with Hurtis, like I taught a class
yep,
there, and you were there.
yep,
Like, yeah, that's
yeah,
so true.
always.
Yeah.
Whenever I can, I will, just because I'm like, you know what? It's investing in my, my career with the company. It's also investing in my career in the stylist, because then I can be there to be that support, and also feel more confident when I'm talking to clients on the phone. So it's like I'm understanding a little bit more about like, okay, this sounds like a person that might need to do some type of consultation before they come in for a service, or this is the type of person that might need to send us some pictures just so then we can get an idea of what we're starting with and what they're looking to finish at. It just helps with like making those more I guess, educated
Hmm.
calls when it comes to that guest service over the phone. But also, it has helped me with knowing, okay, this person, since they're getting a balayage, might be a great person to consider the acidic bonding treatment.
Mm.
So it helps with the upgrades as well because I understand what goes well with those services because I've been to those classes, and have that idea. And I mean, I've even made charts for my team before. I'm like, hey, if a person is calling for a balayage, these are the top treatments that I would recommend. And
That's
same
great.
thing with the checkout. I mean, when it comes to products, let's face it, a lot of stylists will drop the ball on the retail,
Yep.
and they'll drop the ball on communicating to the front desk on the retail.
Yep.
So making charts, I think, is important too. So then they feel more, again, confident with like, okay, I didn't get a retail recommendation, but I know that they got this service. This service we would recommend blank.
I love that. And that's good too, because that holds the service provider accountable for making their actual recommendations versus like the generic ones that might be like the blanket recommendations for the
Yes.
for the
Yes.
salon. And that also puts more pressure on the service provider because they don't get to be like, "Ah, well, of course you didn't like that shampoo. I didn't recommend it to you." It's like, well, someone had to recommend something to them, and it might
Yeah.
as well have been someone in the house, and you still
Yeah.
got credit for it somehow. So
Exactly. Well, and same thing with the rebooks too. And one of my favorite things to do is because, and that's where it's like goal setting is important for the front desk as well, because then they're really trying to push to close those sales for the service providers. Like with rebook, having the scripts down and knowing exactly when balayage should rebook. So again, if the stylist drops the ball on it, then we have this opportunity to try to catch it. And one of my favorite things to do is like, oh, you know how Susie, you said that she never rebooks? Guess what? I got her to rebook. And
mhm.
then, kind of like showing like you just assume that they always will book online. Let's try to, make those scripts stronger. And I think that's something with the modern front desk is that because we have technology that can support us in many ways, we can focus more on these scripts to try to close deals. The other thing too with Salon Centric, having things like Salon Interactive, where it's
Mhm.
like we can have our guests leave our salon company and we could still close a retail sale.
Yep.
And so those things are going to be a support in the modern, front desk. And that has to be pushed through a person. It's not happening as an automated thing. So it's
Yep.
like these are things that the front desk can do that can elevate that experience and capture more sales. I think the other piece that with the modern front desk is that they're engaging more in social media and helping with stories.
Mhm.
I know like any front desk that I'm working with, I highly encourage them to be making, reels on products, doing stories where it's like they're walking through the salon every day. One of my good friends, and I coach her as well, and she's one of your good friends, Laura Frazier, like she's really big on that. And she was one that really was
It's
kind of
funny that she
like,
popped up in my brain the second you said that because she's always been so good at that. Yeah.
yes. So that's like something that she focuses on as another area that she likes to um, basically goal her front desk as well.
Hmm.
And I think that's something that has changed a lot too, is like the idea of goaling has changed a lot. And, Summit just made a big change, and I'm not sure if you even have heard about it yet, Blake, but we're changing the front desk, how we recommend like pay raises. Like we're working towards this idea of having annual pay raises available to our front desk
Great.
and having the ability to have bonuses be a little bit more structured based off of what that specific salon company needs. So it's not
Mm.
cookie cutter anymore. It's going into like if it's social media that the salon company needs support with, we're going to have bonuses based on social media for that salon company. If
That's
that
amazing.
salon company needs retail as a focus, which many do, then we're
Most
going
of
to
us
have
do.
that
Yeah.
be a big focus. But we're trying to make it a little bit more uniform to a sales position because at the end of the day, it is a sales position. And we've been preaching that for a long time, but I don't think
Yep.
that we've treated it as a sales position in our salon companies. We were still like making it more of like a receptionist position. And I think that's the difference. So now we have annual goals for them that will give them a pay raise. And that's what
Wow.
literally every other retailer out there does. And once we start thinking about our salon company as not just being a salon, it's also a store, and we treat the
Yep.
front as a store, we see major sales shifts.
That's a major. So the big things I'm hearing is, first of all, the front desk is a sales house. It can produce as much as a service provider, which I know we've said a lot for Summit, but I still feel
Mhm.
like you're right. People just don't listen. Like even from the for the last year or so when I've been working with Salon Interactive, saying like you need to start treating your business like a business and start acting like the big guys. Like if you're mad at,
Yeah,
XYZ big box store or online retailer,
right.
then you need to do something about it and start acting like them, which is why
Mhm.
having these tools there. And so like for a front desk person to have an opportunity to earn a raise based on a customized goal for the company, it makes sense because it is a sales job, and that's exactly how sales works in every other
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
world.
and that was the thing. I worked a lot with Jules and KV and Heather Bagby and Dave, on this. I was like, guys, like if we look at all the other retailers out there, how are they basically doing performance reviews with their teams to get to get them to earn more money.
Hmm.
And so I did some deep research on all the stores that can keep people who started out as just like cashiers, or maybe they want to stay as cashiers, or they have grown within the company and started to become shift leaders and then managers and general managers. And I really wanted to see like what are they doing, because they seem to keep people. And my mom actually is a great example. Like she's been working with Michael's Craft Store for a long time, and she worked her way into a store manager. And I was like,
Mm.
Mom, like, what is it that you guys have for goals to earn raises? Because they get raises every year.
Hmm.
And I'm like, how does that work? So I did some research with her and then some other companies that I know have a tendency of keeping their salespeople. And it was interesting to see like what those KPIs looked like, and they were actually uniform within all the companies. One of the cool pieces that indicates a raise was attendance, which I think is
Okay.
a great thing to
Yeah,
review.
well, because it's like, I mean, because we deal with salon owners all the time where they not deal, well, I guess deal, but, we talk to salon owners all the time. And, they're like, how do you get kids to show up to work? It's
Yeah,
like, incentivize it, gamify it. Like, I don't know.
exactly.
Like,
Yes.
because people don't have an attachment to work like they used to. So we could do a whole
No,
episode on
no.
that. But, like,
I know.
yeah, so
Oh,
I love
trust
that.
me. I'll be on that one. I'll be on that one.
Yeah.
Because I have a whole piece on that where it's like, it's something that you have to shift your mind on.
Yeah.
I know, like being an old millennial, still have a tendency to think of, like every other, like, I don't know, what is it, Gen X, the one before me.
Yeah.
They're the ones, you just do it because you're told to, and you work your butt off until you get the
And they'll be
opportunity
mad
to
about
have
it the whole way.
freedom.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And I'm like, so I have, a little tendency to think that way because that's how I was raised, basically, raised by boomers, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, it's like I had to stop and reflect and think about it. And it's like, first of all, you know what? I'm so excited that this generation is really putting this thoughtfulness on work life harmony, because
Mm,
their longevity in this career could be so much longer than somebody that works how we did.
mm.
And that I think is a beautiful thing to celebrate. So when we start putting emphasis on things like attendance and rewarding them with time off, all of those are going to put more value and keep them longer. So it's funny to think of it. It's like you give them more time off, they'll stay more.
Yeah, but
But
it's
I
so
think
true.
it's
Yeah,
a
it's
great,
true. Yeah.
great way to think about it.
That's amazing. And so, yeah, so I love all of these things. And that kind of touches on the last thing that I wanted to, excuse me, the last thing I want to talk about is retention. So obviously this part of giving them time off and making sure that they're incentivized to show up and
Mhm.
also earn more money. Like a big point of contention people have is holding on to people. And I've just
Yeah.
accepted it as like, it is going to be a high turnover job because it is an hourly job at the end of the day. It's a job. It's typically not a career. It's rare that I meet people
Yeah.
who treat it as a career with individuals like yourself who have turned it to
Hmm.
a full-fledged high earning career actually.
Yeah.
So how do you hold on to people?
Yeah, so I think one is changing how we incentivize them to, with pay raises. Because again,
Yeah.
these other, like I mentioned about my mother, other places that are, sales based, there are people who do want to stay in a job.
Hmm.
And, but the key is that they have to see that they're earning more every year.
Yep.
So we have to figure out how to make that more clear and for them to actually see that they're going to make more money. And I think that's where shifting it from, being so hard for them in some ways with, the five, it used to be for Summit, we would say five goals for 5 months within a 12-month period. It was just a lot. And then there was a lot of roadblocks too. It's like the stylist would say no to the upgrade that I offered. So then I want to get credit for it. So there was a lot of like, I think that sometimes had caused some people to feel frustrated, like they had people against them with excelling in their career. That's where I think that, having annual pay raises of some sort or, giving them time off that's paid, having more incentives that way is going to make them feel valued. Because I think
Hmm.
that's the key. We have to make them feel valued and not just, transactions. Um,
Hmm.
because I think that's where if we again treat it as a transactional position, that's all that we're going to attract. If we show that we have value in them, that we're, going to find ways to help them grow within our companies, even finding some type of career path. Like if you're big enough, like you can have stepping stones. I know, Katie Kennedy from your salon company and I have worked on it many years ago talking about like what does it look like for someone who does want to stay within our company within this position. So what
Hmm.
opportunities are there for them? Can we consider maybe, some of them are going to be better trainers than others, and some of them are going to be better leaders than others. And I think it's identifying people's strengths and then playing on it. I mean, that's something that I've recognized in my career, with mentoring people for so long. It's like sometimes people need a little extra something to make them feel like they're part of the bigger picture.
Hmm.
Something that actually Tim at Hurtis and I had done once was one person, you just needed something extra to feel valued within the company. And we just had her in charge of hospitality. She just let us, she kept an eye that everything was organized in it. If we needed to order things, she, put in a request for ordering. And it just gave her a little extra piece to feel like she was part of something bigger than just answering phones, just, all those things that people tend to say. And I would start listening also to your front desk. If they're saying, like, oh, well, I'm just the front desk, I think that it's time to consider putting some more love into them because
Yeah.
nobody should feel like they're just anything within your company.
I
And
love
that's
that.
something I think that's important to reflect on. If somebody's like, oh, I'm just an associate, or I'm just the front desk, or I'm just a stylist, I would explore that. I would definitely explore that. Like, why do you feel like you're just? Like, do you actually know what your value is within our company?
Yeah.
And maybe, as an owner or a manager, we need to reflect on that to find out how we can put some more love into that person to feel that value that you truly believe that they have.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm a huge advocate for words matter. Like, with my
Hmm.
associates, whenever they're like, "Your client is here," and I was like, "No, our client is
Our
here."
client.
Yeah, yeah. Like our guest is here. So it's like it's really important for. I'm like, we're a team. Like I don't get to
Hmm.
do any of this without you. You're an integral
Exactly.
part of this operation, and I don't get to see 14 color clients on a 12-hour day without you. So
Exactly.
it's one of those things that I'm like, I need them
Hmm.
desperately, and we need front desk. So
Yeah.
I think it's such a crucial part. So,
Yeah.
where can people get in touch with you if they want to receive coaching from you, or where
Yeah.
can they connect with you online?
I mean, they can definitely find me on Instagram. I'm talking to a couple of my coworkers at Summit about getting back on our Instagram lives because I love doing
Yeah,
those. I love doing stuff like this. So that should be up and going again soon. So it's just Rose Coitrone. It's my name.
we'll have it linked
That's my
below.
handle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy. That's the best way to get a hold of me, and also kind of see some of the things that I've done out in the world. I have a really fun video that everyone loves about me redesigning a color bar on a budget,
Mm,
which was fun.
so
I think
real.
I did
Yeah.
it within, and this is pretty amazing, $265, I think. I redid our whole color bar with.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was thinking though there'd be like a zero tacked onto that for it to still be a
No,
budget
no,
renovation.
no, no.
Yeah, that's
One
great.
thing I'm really good at is figuring out how to, get the most I can out of the least amount of money if we have a tight budget.
Yeah.
So that has a really cool one on, like redesigning it on a budget. Because at the end of the day, it's like organization is key with, I think,
Hmm.
most things. And there's a lot of resources out there that can support that. But yeah, I'm hoping to do some more videos on there, lives. And I mean, there's always my email as well, which is rcotrone@summitsalon.com.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Rose, for being on the show. And we have one last question for you. What does happiness mean to you?
So happiness means to me, I was really thinking about this because I'm like, there's
You
so
knew
many
this question
things.
was coming. Yeah.
Yes. And I was like, geez, where do I begin? But I think like it's funny because Trisha, who owns Highlight Salon Companies, um, she's one of my really good friends, and she always says that she notices that I'm most happy when I get to feed people. I think it's the Italian in
It's
me.
Italian in
It's
you. Yep.
like it's like having, the people that I love and care about have like a warm belly, and like it just creates memories too. Like we love
Yeah.
doing like Sunday suppers and things like that together. And like, with her daughter Joanne, who's 4, having her involved too and teaching her some of our traditions, I think is really fun. So it's the food. It brings, family, whether they're blood or found,
Hmm.
together. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing. And food always brings smiles to people's face. So it's really special to me.
I love that. That's a very unique answer too. I don't think anyone's ever said that before, but I love that because it makes sense. So I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rose, and thank you, friend, for listening. If you enjoyed this, please take a moment to send this to a coworker or a business partner or your front desk team that needs a little bit of inspiration. And thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time.